am so excited this chat with Pat. We have with us Father Joseph Gill. He is a priest of the Diocese of Bridgeport, Connecticut, pastor, teacher, high school chaplain, writer, and one of the articles that I was so blessed to be able to read is what we're talking with him about today. It's called, Are We in the End Times? Welcome, Father Joseph. So nice to have you on the show.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
Can you tell me what precipitated you writing this article on Are We in End Times?
Well, it was originally written all the way back in COVID, and when the world seemed to be shutting down, and it was truly an unprecedented time, it made me start to wonder, and I was kind of speaking with my sister about whether or not, this might be kind of a harbinger of something that's perhaps even more apocalyptic. And she kind of poo-pooed the idea and said, no, don't even think about end time stuff. That's not helpful. But I started to think, well, actually, it might be helpful to think about end times, because we need to situate ourselves in what is the story we're living in, which is the story of salvation history, which has the beginning of creation and the fall, the middle, which is Christ's climax as his passion, death, and resurrection, and then the end, which is Christ's triumphal return. And so I just kind of started thinking and praying about where are we in the midst of this story.
And it's a wonderful, the article is just wonderful. So tell us, why do you think it is important for us to spend time on thinking about maybe not only end times as a whole, Jesus' second coming, but all of us are going to die, so we will have the end of our personal time. Why is it important for us to do this?
Well, I think it's for both of those reasons, right? Christ tells us to be vigilant and to read the signs of the times at all times. And that just helps to situate us more and more in that larger story, because so often in our life, we just get bogged down with the mundane realities of daily life, right? Mm-hmm. Bills and doctor's appointments and struggling with our kids. And we feel like that becomes our narrative. But taking a step back and kind of looking at ourselves, well, what am I actually here for? Well, it's actually for eternal realities, right? That my kids are going to be in eternal triumph or in eternal tragedy, that I'm going to spend eternity either with God or without God. And taking that step back to kind of see, actually I have an important mission on this earth, gives meaning and purpose to our daily life, that it's not mundane, it's not boring, it's not ordinary. It's actually something that's really tremendous.
So, Father, how can the church help us in this regard? What are some of the things the church can do to kind of help us understand this eternal, immortal soul we have, and why it's important to focus on understanding what we do here matters?
Well, the papal preacher, Cardinal Raniero Cantalamessa, was once asked by a reporter, if you could say one word to the entire church, what would you say? And his response was, I would say eternity. Eternity. I think that's one of the most underused words and most underused concepts in homilies and in teaching, is that we often teach about how can we live for Jesus here, how can we love our neighbor here, all of which is good, but it's good to even zoom out from that and say, well, what does this matter in light of eternity? So the church really needs to kind of focus on both eternity, but also the joy of Christ's second coming. It should be something that we look forward to, and talk about why we look forward to it, because he's going to set right everything we've messed up in human history.
Yeah. That'll be great. Because we've certainly done
I can't wait.
Yes, we've all done our share of messing things up, that's for sure. But you mentioned that the beginning of the end starts with the Renaissance. What changes? And that was in the 1400s thereabouts. So what changes during this time that focuses us in a different direction?
Well, for the first time, really, in history, the idea of knowledge is taken off of seeking God, and rather in just simply trying to improve this world. Not that that's a bad goal, but everything in this world needs to be referred to God. Okay, so I can do this thing that helps a human being, but maybe helps make my life easier, but is that what's truly best for my soul, truly best for my eternal well-being? Does it glorify God? And for the first time in the Renaissance, the vision was taken off of God and said, let's just use our knowledge for the sake of knowledge and for the sake of furthering the human species and the human comfort level on this earth. So it became very dangerous, making man the center of all knowledge and of all research.
So, Father, when we go to Mass, when we are at any kind of liturgical experiences, how can we look for, or where do we look to kind of have this reminder of the second coming of Christ? Because you said when you became a priest, that really struck you very deeply about how much we talk about the second coming of Christ. What can we key into?
Me too. Well, definitely start reading the book of Revelation. But yeah, no, I think just simply having the awareness and the realization that that our life is temporary and that eternity is coming, and that what we see here on this earth is much like an iceberg, right? And you see in an iceberg 10% of the iceberg, and the rest is hidden underwater. And so it is with us, that we see maybe 10% of what God is doing, 10% of the meaning and purpose of our life, because the rest is only seen through faith. So it's not what we sense. It's simply just as we go to pray, we have to believe we're actually talking to a real live person, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, who hears our prayers. We have to believe that our soul is real and that it requires virtue and nourishment through the Eucharist, and confession really does forgive us. And I think sometimes we don't have enough faith to really see the spiritual life as equally real or even more real than the physical world around us.
Yeah. And one of the things you do in this article is you lay out how this age, because we said, people have been thinking the end of times, or every age they think this is it. But you do lay out very nicely in this article 7 ways in which you think this age is different than past ages. Now, we don't have time to go into all 7, which is good, because then people will listen to the Virtuous Life later today and hear us with an hour-long conversation on this article. But pull one out that you think is the one that you focused on the most, maybe, or maybe was the first thought that popped into your head when you were writing this.
Well, I think the one that probably comes to everyone's mind is technology. Which, again, is not a bad thing, but it's a powerful thing. And powerful things need to be used well, and they need to be used wisely, right? Nuclear power can power an entire city, or it can destroy an entire city based upon whose hands we put it in. And unfortunately, we've put a lot of incredible technology in the hands of those who are not formed enough in their Christian faith to understand how to use it and use it well. So technology, I think, is kind of a radical shift in our human mindset in 2 ways. One is that it takes us away from the stuff of life, right? Dirt and sky and plants, and because we're now interpreting life through a screen. And that's the first time we've ever been able to do that, which means that, when you're working with dirt and you're working with trees and animals and plants, you recognize that you did not create them, and that there's a power bigger than you that you have to work with. And that power, of course, is God. But when we have our entire life curated in the palm of our hand, we believe that we are in charge. That if I don't like this thing, I will just delete it. I'll delete that app. If I don't like this thing, I'll just scroll left. I don't have to look at it anymore.
Right.
And that becomes we're very swelled with self-knowledge and self-power. But the other element, too, that I mentioned with that is that the technology, for the first time, allows us to choose our culture. Because in human history, faith has always just been passed down through culture. But now, for the first time, young people especially can choose to be a completely different culture than their parents. Even if their parents are devout Catholics, they can say, I'm going to find my own tribe here online, and I don't even have to be formed in the Catholic culture that my parents want me to be formed in.
And that's a big difference. And boy, I want everybody to know, come and listen to The Virtuous Life, because he will be on this afternoon for a full hour. Thanks so much, Father, for being with us today. I greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome.